Okay, I had some trouble uploading my video PowerPoint presentation. Here is proof that I did it. Alright, so here we go. I'm going to be sharing with you my micro-teach for Almost Famous, which is set during the 1970s of American modern history. The film starts out with William, a young boy who is trying to find his way. He's living in a household with just his mother, who is played by Frances McDormand, and his sister, who's played by Zooey Deschanel. The movie is set in San Diego, California, which is kind of familiar to me because that's where I am. And while William gets along with his mom and sister separately, both of the women in his life are totally at odds with each other, as Elaine struggles to keep some form of control over Anita. So the mom and daughter are having some issues, and the daughter feels like the mom's being too overbearing, which is kind of popular for that time era. One day, Anita brings home a copy of Simon and Garfunkel, the Bookends album, which is an awesome album, I must say. And anyway, the mother confiscates it and says that the songs are about drugs and promiscuous sex, which is kind of a theme for the 70s. As Anita gets angry, she decides to leave and become a stewardess, leaving her entire record collection to her brother William. And before she leaves, she tells him that one day you'll be cool. And then as William goes through his new found record collection, he finds out that his sister actually had really great taste in music, and she writes a note saying that he should listen to The Who's Tommy, and that if he listens to this while lighting a candle, he will see his future. As he gets older, he realizes that he has a love for rock music and journalism, and ends up writing for several newspapers, as well as Cream magazine. William meets the editor of Cream magazine, who gives him some pointers and tells him a little bit about rock and roll. So anyway, they send him off to interview Black Sabbath, which is playing at the San Diego Sports Arena. Anyway, as we continue on, I'll go through and explain to you some of the other themes like sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Okay, cultures and themes. If we go into that, we've got the freedom theme. So everybody was all about peace, love, not war. Again, drug, sex, and rock and roll were a theme throughout the 70s. Sexual freedom and promiscuity were a big theme of this decade, and the music reflected this. Drug, sex, and rock and roll. This here depicts images from the movie of Almost Famous, of an after party. And this here is the image of William talking to his sister, and she tells him to look under his bed for some great music. Some of the other fads and fashions of this time were lava lamps, mood rings, smiley faces, and of course the ever-loving Rubik's Cube. Some lava lamps as well as smiley faces were depicted in this film. And just about everybody had a station wagon, including William's mom in the movie. The fashion influence of the 60s, hippies, was mainstreamed in the 70s as men sported shoulder-length hair and non-traditional clothing. Some items include bell-bottoms, hip huggers, colorful patches, hot pants, platform shoes, t-shirts, gypsy dresses, knits, and denims were the fabric of choice. And micro, mini, and maxi skirts and dresses were popular for women. Here are some images here of different fashion styles of this era. And then we get into some of the presidents that we had of this time. Roe versus Wade was huge. In the movie they mention talking about birth control. being important. Rock and roll had nearly become meaningless. The Beatles broke up and Elvis Presley had died, and these were very major influences at the time. Pop music was made up of a multitude of styles during this time. The opening song of the movie I thought was interesting was Alvin and the Chipmunks. Although they came about in the 60s, they were still pretty popular and sold over 30 million records. And here are some more images of different bands that we had during that time. Very popular. Many of them were also depicted in the film. And here we have some technology that makes some references to the computer that William wrote on, and I thought it was interesting that Apple actually started up in the 60s, but here's an ad from the 1970s. And there you have it.